How can you tell if a person is a douchebag? If they're the never in the wrong kind of person, I don't mean someone that has an inability to admit they're incorrect, which is also douchey, but the kind of person, even when caught dead to rights, will find a way to claim no wrongdoing. I once caught a college roommate going through a care package my mother had sent me, happily eating the baked goods, perusing the clothing she'd sent, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? And he goes, I thought you said I could have some. I'd received the package a day earlier, when he wasn't even around, and had put it under my bed while still sealed, yet he thought that I thought you said I could have some shit would work. He even told me to chill the fuck out when I got righteously angry. So glad that jackass flunked out in the first semester. I had a similar experience when my randomly assigned freshman year roommate got high and ate all of the homemade cookies my aunt had sent me. He didn't get why I was upset and also pulled out the "didn't you say I could have these?" card. Then he told me he'd buy me any pack of cookies I wanted from the grocery store, as if they were comparable. I remember being at a family gathering one night. It was pretty late, around 11 p.m. Everyone was just sitting around outside, drinking, eating carne asada. I had been up since 5 a.m. that day working and running errands. I was tired and not really wanting to do anything but eat some fajitas. One of my relatives sits down next to me, asks me how I'm doing. I tell him I had a long day and that I'm pretty tired. He just looks at me and yells, "Tired? ? Tired? You young people don't know what tired really is." He goes on and on complaining about his job and how his kids don't appreciate anything blah, blah. I had no interest in engaging this man, so I just said something along the lines of "yeah, that's rough," and walked away. He was clearly drunk and wanting to vent, so I didn't take it personal, but he was definitely being a douche in that moment. Afterwards, I felt like I was the douche walking away from him like that, but I was really not in the mood. I get worries that sometimes when I'm trying to relate and sympathize, saying "me too man," they'll take it as one-upping, so I generally give the benefit of the doubt when someone does it to me. I think the difference between being a douche and relating can be taking the 1 second to acknowledge and be like, that sucks. Here's what happened to me today. The conversations normally happen during restaurant work. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm not out to be better than you. I just want to explain that I've experienced similar things and can empathize. Or maybe I just want to say something that's interesting enough to keep the conversation going. In fact, one downing can be just as bad if not worse. If they tell you something really shitty that's going on and you're like, that sucks for you. My day is kinda bad too. At McDonald's they gave me cold fries. Yeah, I know there are better ways to deal with that. Like, you don't necessarily have to talk about yourself at all. But my point is that conversation is a really difficult skill to master for many people, and just because someone is bad as it doesn't have to mean they have shitty personalities. It could just be that they're trying hard to say the right things and failing. They might be going home that night with full-on anxiety about what they should have said instead. Sometimes I worry I come across that way. Expressing sympathy is kind of weird to me. Saying, "Oh, sorry about that," never seems genuine. I always try to tell a similar story to show I know where they're coming from, but then I worry I'm making their problems all about me. I wonder if that's a fairly common problem among the socially awkward. I love with chronic pain, and I've been on both ends of this. Like, folks who feel the need to have it worse than me is weird. No, you don't want to be in more constant pain than I am. I've also been in situations where someone mentions how poorly they are doing, and are looking for sympathy. So even though I'm in way more pain than they're stubbed toe, I try to be sympathetic and not just stare at them while they don't get the fact that I'm hunched over because of nerve pain. Lady at work is like that. She has shit going on in her family, but no one is allowed to complain or worry about their problems, as hers are much more worse/important, especially when she chooses to raise her voice about it. Then if it's a subject she has no relationship with or anything similar, she can outdo in an argument. She says how stupid/useless it is. Classic one is if someone is worried about their pet/talking about pets in general, she says they are a waste of money and should be put down. especially to people talking about sick bets. I hate it when she starts on one in the dining room. I usually have to leave the room as I'm afraid I'm gonna slap her silly. CO worker at my old job was like this. Story time. So we were hired for the same position about 4 years apart but for two very different reasons. He was a previous employee, who was not working out in his previous position, and when a sales spot opened up, the boss decided to give him one last shot, basically do well here, or find a different job. He was given a pre-established sales area that was considered the best one to have. He was making top numbers within a year. 4 years later, I was asked to take a sales position as a favor to the owner due to two other employees breaking contract and basically going scorched earth on the company. They were pissed off the boss have the other guy the best route. The boss needed a go-getter to re-establish the area. It took me right at a year to even break even, and had to fight tooth and nail to get things going. So one morning we were having a sales meeting and started talking about how hard his first year was and how he had to work so hard, and the boss gave me everything and I had it so easy. The boss had a field day with that one. Piggybacking off this, if they have a friend for every situation. For instance, I have a gay friend who, I have a Jewish friend who, I have a black friend who, they want to chime in on every situation as if they or their friends extended their own first-hand experiences. It's totally fine if you have nothing to add to a conversation, but people do notice if you conveniently have a friend for every situation. Work with a guy. He's a know-nothing who thinks he knows every fucking thing. He'll ask a question, then decide he knows the answer already and not listen to a fucking thing anyone says. He's driving most people at the site crazy, and I must have won the lottery because a lot of my shit intersects with his, so I have to deal with him the most. He keeps sending me dumbass emails asking for information that's A, easily found, and B, his goddamn job to look up. I try to be a real helpful person in general, like going above and beyond to get people the info they need, but I've started ghosting this guy on his requests for me to do his job for him. I saw one kinda similar yesterday. Frack Lives Matter. I've got a cousin kinda like that. There's something about oil fields that makes these guys think they're the only hard-working people around, but most of the folks I've worked with who spend a lot of time out there are just a complete mess. Anger issues, various addictions, hard drugs, gambling to excess, and other problems. I know they can't all be like that, but there's definitely a pattern going on. I met one of these a couple weeks ago on a Friday night. He was visiting out of town from a military-based expedition, to which I wholeheartedly can respect. I guess he took this as an invite to make the entire night about him or something, because it became completely impossible to hold a conversation with the dude. There were 9 of us, but if anyone even made the slightest interjection to contribute to the conversation, he seemed to make it a point to talk over them and keep going with whatever demos bullshit he had been spewing all night. We mostly gave him the time of day, sitting and patiently listening to his antics, but it seemed like we were pulling away from him in groups of 2s or 3s the whole night through just to have some one-on-one time and genuinely converse with each other. He single-handedly ruined the whole night for everyone else because of his absurd amount of pride. I have a coworker who has to constantly draw attention to herself. Once I realized this, I couldn't unsee it. She can't just go get lunch. She has to ask all the high-level bosses she can find if she can get them anything. She can't walk across the room to get a cup of coffee. She has to sing nonsense words at the top of her voice and then say, "Oops, was I doing it again?" I don't even notice it. She can't take a 5-minute break and flip through the newspaper. She has to comment on every article to anyone who will listen, and she can't just get permission from her boss to leave 10 minutes early. She has to tell literally everyone she sees about how she's leaving early with permission and she's entitled to because she worked her ass off and also came in early. She can't just hand out the free snacks when people request them. She has to stand at the office door and shout at everyone who walks by. Any job duty that's high profile she jumps all over and won't let anyone else do. Anything that's low visibility or thankless, she's too busy to take it on. When I was a grad student, I taught undergrad classes. I was just a baby teacher, but I'd like to think this is when I found my footing. A freshman brought his acoustic guitar to class and said he was going to play some John Mayer. I said, deadpan, "If you do that I will give you an F." I joke around a lot as a teacher, so everyone laughed. I never would have done that, and I would rightly have been reported if I had, but he never brought that damn guitar back. I walked with the cane BC of nerve damage in my legs, and was walking to my car, and tripped and fell on the ground. Hurt myself pretty good on the fall, but as I was falling, me and this soldier locked eyes as I'm heading face first to the pavement. I hit the ground hard and he just stepped over me, and went on like I wasn't there in need of help. I live in the US. If anyone was wondering, I consider that to be a doucher move, so he will forever be a douchebag in my mind. I'll never forget the day I slipped on wet tile at college and slammed onto the floor. Looked like a turtle on its back wriggling to do anything while some douches snickered and watched. Then this one girl rushes over like a damn superhero and uses her muscle mom strength to bear all my weight as I pull myself onto 2 feet. It's a good litmus test of character, to help someone who falls. I hope that girl has an amazing life. What about internet service providers? I scheduled with Frontier to show up to install my internet a month before I moved. For 4 days in a row, they didn't show up to install my internet, and they didn't call me to let me know they weren't going to be there. It was just, "We'll show up tomorrow between 8-12. Then they didn't show up, and I had to spend the next 6 hours escalating up the phone tree while I was supposed to be unpacking the house. Or CenturyLink, who when I tried to switch to them, I spent 4.5 hours on the phone troubleshooting with them, trying to figure out why my connection was slower than dial-up, and they told me our diagnosis is that the internet is connecting slower than it should. We can send out the tech for $120 to come look at it, or you can just stick with the speeds you're at. Then when I wanted to cancel it, they didn't want to give me my money back. ISPs are the mosquitoes of the service provider industry. There's a guy in my circle friends, who sits in the friend of a friend category, who I am firmly in the belief can't start a single sentence that doesn't start with I. If he's not bragging about something, he's trying to one-up someone. If he's not trying to do either of those, he is playing the victim. He has strolled into a group of us trying to console another friend who just had a breakup in a relationship that spanned a few years, and tried to get us to talk about his day instead, because he had a bad day too. Not one word of support, just waltzed in, listened a bit, and then tried to shift the conversation to himself while our other friend was in tears. When people didn't focus on him, he started getting pissy over it and complained everyone ignoring me like always. He's like this every day. His bad day was just having to deal with an uppity customer in his retail job. A real man recognizes that not everybody is where they want to be in life, and we shouldn't belittle those for doing what they can to get there. A real man doesn't mock someone for trying. They share their insight and help people. There is definitely such thing as a real man, because if some alpha Chad gym dude bro who mocks fat people shows up, I'll proudly say that dickhead is not a real man. So if there is such a thing as not a real man, there is a real man. The real man mentality is a positive thing for society, because a real man is someone who helps elevate people, not a brute who puts people down. Wow, this is weird. I was literally thinking this evening that if this question comes up on AskReddit, I know what I'd say. If they ride a Harley-type motorcycle and floor it at every green light, the lack of self-awareness that it makes them look extremely insecure, not like a macho tough guy, is automatic douchebag territory. I admittedly have a bad habit of doing this from time to time. I work in medicine, so we use male, female a lot, and I've caught it carrying over into my social life a few times. I've been working hard to correct it. I don't think it makes me a douchebag or anything, but I do get where you are coming from, BC. Even when I catch myself using female outside of work, I don't like the way it sounds. I'm super self-conscious about looking high, and my eyes get red. so I wear sunglasses indoors if I don't have eye drops lol. I swear it's a psychological thing where I can't function at 100% if I'm paranoid about people knowing I'm fucked up. It's funny you say that though, because I hate wearing sunglasses indoors for this reason. Honestly, only surefire way is hardship. Whether it's edgy tats or with bumper stickers, people are always changing. Guy that got those tats 5 octoseconds ago is not same person before you. Some assholes are really good at hiding it. Really, you want to know how good person is? Witness them in hardship. Friend needs someone to pick them up late because car broke down. Needs a lone place to crash, someone to talk to, whatever. Biggest douches are not those with edgy tattoos and refuse to be PC or have shitty political affiliations. It's those that bail on friends. Of course, yes, there is always limits and you can only do what you can do. But literally seen people refuse to get friends like a block away from house who had cart rubble and it was weekend so no work. Excuses and it was still before 10 p.m. no kids and they offered to fill his tank for a ride. He was a massive chode. Let's see if they rev their engine at locations where it shouldn't be revved. Examples include in neighborhoods, by schools, at red lights. If it's a normal day and you and another random car fly by racing each other on the streets during the middle of the day, there's tracks for a reason. Go there and race on fairgrounds or don't race at all. If you brag about physical feats and or make every conversation about how much stronger, faster, smarter, etc. you are than somebody else of everybody else in the room. For example, hey John, can I borrow your car for? Yeah, I pumped about 250 at the gym. Working. Why weigh up to 260 bicep curls and kisses your bicep. You're the best if you get the reference. When they make a huge ass coffee order, like, I'll have the Neapolitan cappuccino, more kappa than chino. Make sure it's got more than 4 ounces of milk. The beans won't have the right texture otherwise. And make sure they spell my name right on the cup. They always put Voxy or Roxy. I hate that. If you can't handle that, I'll have a Vandi traditional misto. Please use soy milk with 2 blonde shots of Dogotto and Ristretto. I'd also love 3 vanilla pumps at the very bottom, then add the coffee after. Honestly, for a lot of people their tell is the way they carry themselves and the glint in their eye. There are some people where you can just look at them and see the douchebaggery leaking from their pores. They also tend to be uneducated, poorly educated and ignorant, but they speak and act as if they're part of the top 1% of intellectuals. Note, not everyone who doesn't have a higher education falls into this category. People can be smarter and not have gotten anything higher than a high school diploma. I'm talking about the people who don't have the formal education, and who have never tried to educate themselves about different topics independently. They're not well read and they bask in their ignorance because it means they don't have to think for or develop themselves and their worldviews, put themselves before anything and anyone, say things like it's just my opinion and I have the right to free speech when saying that certain humans shouldn't have rights or freedoms, say things like well I didn't see, experience _ so it's not real. Sexism exists even if you have had the privilege of not experiencing it. Racism exists even if you've never experienced. Homophobia and bigotry and xenophobia and anti-Semitism and all the other horrible things people think about each other exist, even if you've never personally experienced it. Say that the Holocaust was a hoax. Every conversation starts with how awesome the namesake is. How self-confident, self-loving and hence successful no matter what obstacles or barriers. Basically, makes it all about him. For in every situation / conversation / company. I know 2 of these, a classmate from school and a coursemate from the uni. I haven't talked to either one for years. If they're a gatekeeper of any kind. If you watch an anime, it's the wrong one, or they've been watching it longer, or they shame you for watching it dubbed instead of subbed. If you listen to a group, they've been listening to them since before they got famous, and you're a bandwagon dick rider. If it's a sports team, they know more stats than you. Then they spend the whole conversation either condescending you, or quizzing you about it.